فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَهُمْ فِي رَوْضَةٍ يُحْبَرُونَ.
Then those who believed and acted righteously will be placed in a garden and will be happy and jubilant.
19. A garden of bliss and perfect happiness as a reward and source of everlasting joy. 20. The word yubarun in the original implies this: they will be lodged in it with honor, will remain happy and be provided with every kind of pleasure.
وَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَلِقَاءِ الْآخِرَةِ فَأُولَئِكَ فِي الْعَذَابِ مُحْضَرُونَ.
As for those who disbelieved and gave the lie to our signs, and to the encounter of the hereafter, they will be arraigned for chastisement.
21. One thing here is noteworthy. Good works have been mentioned as a necessary adjunct of the faith, which will earn one the blissful garden. But no mention has been made of the evil acts while mentioning the evil end of disbelief. This clearly indicates that disbelief by itself is enough to mar the destiny of a person, whether it is accompanied by the evil act or not.
فَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ حِينَ تُمْسُونَ وَحِينَ تُصْبِحُونَ.
So, glorify Allah in the evening and the morning.
22. So here, implies, when you have come to know the good results of belief and righteous acts and the evil consequences of disbelief and denial of the truth, you should adopt the following conduct. It also means, by holding the life hereafter to be impossible, the polytheists and disbelievers are, in fact, holding Allah to be helpless. Therefore, as against them, you should glorify Allah, and proclaim that He is free from this weakness. This command has been addressed to the Prophet, peace be upon him, and through him to all the believers. 23. To glorify Allah means to proclaim Allah's being free from and exalted above the defects and faults and weaknesses, which the mushriks ascribe to Him due to their shirk and denial of the hereafter. The best form of this proclamation and expression is the prayer. That is why Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Qatada Lbnz and other commentators say that here, to glorify, means to offer the prescribed prayer. A clear indication in favor of this commentary is contained in the verse itself. It lays down certain definite times for the glorification of Allah. Evidently, if it was meant to instill the belief that Allah is free from all defects and weaknesses, there should be no question of the restriction of the times of the morning and evening, and the early and late afternoon. For a Muslim should always have this belief. Similarly, if it was meant to teach glorifying Allah merely verbally, it should be meaningless to specify the times, for a Muslim should express Allah's glory at all times. Therefore, inevitably the command to glorify Allah with the restriction of the times points to its particular practical form, which is none other than the prayer.
وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَعَشِيًّا وَحِينَ تُظْهِرُونَ.
His is all praise in the heavens and in the earth, and glorify Him in the afternoon when the sun begins to decline.
24. This verse clearly points to the times of the Fajr, morning, Maghrib, evening, Asr, late afternoon, and the Zuhr, early afternoon, prayers. Besides this, the other allusions made to the times of the prayer in the Quran are as follows: establish the Salat from the declining of the sun to the darkness of the night, and be particular about the recital of the Quran at dawn. Surah Bani Israel, Ayat 78, establish the Salat at the two ends of the day and in the early part of the night. Surah Hud, Ayat 114, and glorify your Lord with His praise before the rising of the sun and before its setting, and glorify Him again during the hours of the night and at the extremes of the day. Surah Taha, Ayat 130, the first of these verses tells that the times of the prayer are from the declining of the sun to the darkness of the night, Isha, after which is the time of the morning prayer, Fajr. In the second verse, the two ends of the day imply the times of the morning, Fajr, and the evening, Maghrib, prayers, and, in the early part of the night, implies the time of Isha. In the third verse, before the rising of the sun, implies the Fajr time and, before its setting, the Asr tune, and, during the hours of the night, implies the times of both the Maghrib and the Isha prayers, and the extremes of the day are three: the morning, the declining of the sun and the evening. Thus, the Quran at different places has pointed to the 5 prayer times at which the Muslims the world over offer their prayers. But, obviously, no one by merely reading these verses could have determined the prayer times unless the divinely appointed teacher of the Quran, the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself had given guidance to these by his word and deed. Let us pause a while here and consider the boldness of the deniers of Hadith. They make fun of offering the prayer, and say that the prayer that the Muslims offer today is not at all the thing prescribed by the Quran. They assert that the Quranic injunction to establish the Salat does not mean the offering of the prayer but establishing the Nizami Rububiyat, order of providence. Ask them, what is that order of providence which can either be established before the rising of the sun or after the declining of the sun till the early hours of the night? And what is that order of providence which is required to be established especially on Fridays? O believers, when you hear the call to the Friday prayer, hasten to the remembrance of Allah. Surah Al-Jummah, Ayat 9. And what is that special kind of the order of providence for establishing which one has first to wash his face and the hands up to the elbows and the feet up to the ankles and rub his head with wet hands, otherwise he will not establish it? O believers, when you stand up to offer the Salat, you must wash your faces and your hands and arms up to the elbows, and rub your heads with wet hands. Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayat 6. And what is this peculiarity of this order of providence that one cannot establish it unless he has completely washed himself after sexual intercourse? O believers, do not offer the prayer, if you are unclean until you take your bath, except when passing on the way. Surah An-Nisa, Ayat 43. And what is this odd thing that if he has touched the women, he will have to strike his hands on pure dust and rub thereby his face and hands in case he does not find water, for the purpose of establishing the strange order of providence? Or if you have touched women and you can find no water, then cleanse yourselves with pure dust, strike your palms on it and rub your hands and faces with it. Surah An-Nisa, Ayat 43. And what is this amazing order of providence that while on a journey one should establish only half of it? When you go on a journey, there is no harm if you shorten the Salat. Surah An-Nisa, Ayat 101. Then, what an odd thing that during a war half of the soldiers should fall down, carrying their weapons, in order to establish the order of providence behind the Imam, and the other half should stick to their positions and continue fighting the enemy. When the first group has performed one sajda behind the Imam in its effort to establish the order of providence, it should go to relieve the other group, which should fall down and start establishing the order of providence behind the Imam. And when you, O Prophet, are among the Muslims and are going to lead them in Salat, in a state of war, let a party of them stand behind you, carrying their weapons with them. When they have made their prostrations, they should fall back, and let another party of them, who have not yet offered their Salat, say it with you. Surah An-Nisa, Ayat 102. All these verses of the Quran clearly indicate that to establish the Salat implies the prayer that the Muslims offer everywhere in the world today. But the deniers of Hadith seem to be bent upon changing the Quran instead of changing themselves. The fact is that unless a person becomes wholly fearless of Allah, he cannot dare play with his word as these people do. Or, only such a person can engage in a pastime like this with respect to the Quran who believes it is not Allah's word, but intends to mislead the Muslims in the name of the Quran. See, En. 50, below. 20.
وله الحمد وعشيا وحين تظهرون.
His is all praise in the heavens and in the earth, and glorify Him in the afternoon when the sun begins to decline. And glorify Him in the afternoon when the sun begins to decline. Verses 17 to 18 clearly indicate the following 4 times of prayer: Fajr, morning; Maghrib, evening; Asr, afternoon; Zohar, early afternoon when the sun begins to decline. If these verses are read in conjunction with Hud 11:114, Bani Israel 17:78, and Taha 20:130, all the 5 times of daily prayer become evident.
يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون.
He brings forth the living from the dead, and brings forth the dead from the living, and revives the earth after it is dead. Likewise will you be raised to life after you die.
5. That is, how can that God who is doing all this perpetually in front of your eyes, be helpless in raising man to life after death? He is causing absolutely dead matter to be discharged from living man and animals. He is ever bringing into existence countless animals and human beings by breathing life into dead matter, whereas the substances themselves which make up the bodies of the living beings are absolutely without life. He is making you witness the phenomenon that wherever water becomes available, lands previously lying barren start blooming and blossoming with animal and vegetable life. In spite of witnessing all this, if a person thinks that the God who is sustaining the universe will be helpless to raise man back to life after death, he is fully devoid of the common sense. His heart does not see the clear realities gleaming from the manifestations which his eyes see.
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ ثُمَّ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ تَنْتَشِرُونَ.
And of his signs is that he created you from dust, and behold, you became human beings and are multiplying around the earth.
26. It should be noted that from here to the end of verse 27, the signs of Allah that are being mentioned, on the one hand, point to the possibility and occurrence of the life hereafter, in the context of the foregoing discourse. And on the other hand, the same things also point to the reality that this universe is neither godless nor under many gods, but one God alone is its creator, disposer, master and ruler. Thus, this section, ayats 20 to 27, is fully connected with the discourse preceding it and the discourse following it. 27. That is, the stuff from which man has been created is nothing but a few dead substances which are found in the earth, like carbon, calcium, sodium and a few other elements like them. With their combination a wonderful being, called man, has been raised up, and in him have been placed great powers of sentiments, consciousness, and imagination. None of which can be traced back to any of the constituent substances of his physical being. Then, not only has just one man so risen up by a mere accident, but in him has also been placed that wonderful procreative power by which millions and billions of human beings are coming continuously into being, bearing the same physical structure and capabilities and possessing countless hereditary and personal characteristics. Therefore, O man, does your intellect approve that this extremely wise creation has come into being of itself without the creative power of a wise creator? Can you say, being in your senses, that making a wonderful design of the creation of man and bringing it into effect and rendering the countless powers of the earth and heavens favorable and subservient to human life could be the result of the thinking and design of many gods? And will you be in your right senses when you think that the God, who has brought man into being from absolute nothingness, will not be able to raise the same man back to life after giving him death?
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ.
And of his signs is that he has created mates for you from your own kind, that you may find peace in them, and he has set between you love and mercy. Surely there are signs in this for those who reflect.
28. That is, the Creator's perfect wisdom is such that he has not created man in one sex only but in two sexes, which are identical in humanity, which have the same basic formula of their figure and form, but the two have been created with different physical structures, different mental and psychological qualities, and different emotions and desires. And then there has been created such a wonderful harmony between the two that each is a perfect counterpart of the other. The physical and psychological demands of the one match squarely with the physical and psychological demands of the other. Moreover, the wise Creator is continuously creating the members of the two sexes in such a proportion since the dawn of the creation that in no nation and in no region has it ever happened that only boys or only girls may have been born. This is one thing in which human intelligence has absolutely no part to play. Man cannot at all influence the course of nature according to which girls continue to be born with the feminine qualities and the boys with the masculine qualities, which are perfectly complementary to each other, nor has he any means by which he may change the proportion in which men and women continue to be born everywhere in the world. The working of this system and arrangement so harmoniously and perpetually in the birth of millions and billions of human beings since thousands of years cannot be accidental either, nor the result of the common will of many gods. This is a clear indication of the reality that one wise Creator and one only, in the beginning made a most appropriate design of a man and a woman by his infinite wisdom and power and then made arrangements that precisely in accordance with that design countless men and countless women should be born along with their separate individual qualities in the right proportion. 29. That is, this system has not come about by chance, but the Creator has brought it about deliberately with the object that the man should find fulfillment of the demands of his nature with the woman, and the woman with the man, and the two should find peace and satisfaction in association and attachment with each other. This is the wise arrangement which the Creator has made the means of the survival of the human race on the one hand, and of bringing the human civilization into existence on the other hand. If the two sexes had been created on different patterns and designs, and the state of agitation which changes into peace and tranquility only through union and attachment between the two had not been placed in each, the human race might have survived like sheep and goats, but there was no possibility of the birth of a civilization. Contrary to all other species of animal life, the fundamental factor that has helped create human civilization is that the Creator by his wisdom has placed a desire and a thirst and a longing in the two sexes for each other, which remains unsatisfied unless the two live in complete attachment and association with each other. This same desire for peace and satisfaction compelled them to make a home together. This same desire brought families and clans into being, and this same desire made social life possible for man. In the development of social life, man's mental capabilities have certainly been helpful, but they were not its real motives. The real motivating force was the same longing with which man and woman were endowed and which compelled them to establish the home. Can anyone, possessed of common sense, say that this masterpiece of wisdom has come about by chance through the blind forces of nature, or that it has been arranged so by many gods, and countless men and women have been continuously coming into being with the same natural longing since thousands of years? This is a sign of the wisdom of one wise being, and of one only, which the people devoid of common sense only can refuse to acknowledge. 30. Love, here means sexual love, which becomes the initial motive for attraction between man and woman, and then keeps them attached to each other. Mercy implies the spiritual relationship which gradually develops in the matrimonial life, by virtue of which they become kind, affectionate and sympathetic towards each other. So much so that in old age, sexual love falls into the background and the two partners in life prove to be even more compassionate towards each other than they were when young. These two are the positive forces which the Creator has created in man to support the initial longing of his nature. That longing and restlessness only seeks peace and satisfaction and brings the man and the woman into contact with each other. After that, these two forces emerge and bind the two strangers brought up in different environments so intimately together that the two remain attached to each other through every thick and thin of life. Evidently, this love and mercy which is being experienced by millions and millions of people in their lives, is not anything material, which may be weighed and measured, nor can it be traced back to any of the constituent element of human body, nor the cause of its birth and growth found out in a laboratory. The only explanation of this can be that the human self has been endowed with it by a wise Creator, who has done so of his own will to serve a special purpose.
وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ.
And of His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your tongues and colors. Indeed, there are signs in this for the wise.
31. That is, their coming into existence from nothingness and there being established an eternal law, and the functioning in them of innumerable forces in great harmony and equilibrium, contain many signs of the reality that one and one only Creator has brought the entire universe into existence, and He alone is running this grand system. On the one hand, by reflecting over the origin of the initial energy that assumed the form of matter, then the transformation of the matter into so many elements, then the combination of the elements in a wonderful and wise proportion and coming into being of an awe-inspiring system of the universe, and then the functioning of this system since billions of centuries with such regularity and discipline. Every unbiased mind will come to the conclusion that all this could not happen by mere chance, without the all-embracing will of an all-knowing, all-wise Creator. Then, on the other hand, if one sees that everything from the earth to the farthest stars in the universe is made up of the same basic elements and the same law of nature is working in it, every intellect, which is not stubborn, will certainly admit that this cannot be the result of the Godhead of many gods, but there is one God who is the creator and sustainer of this whole universe. 32. That is, although your vocal cords are similar, and there is no difference in the structure of the mouth, the tongue and the brains, yet people speak different languages in different regions of the world. Even in the regions where the same language is spoken, different dialects are spoken from city to city and from town to town. Moreover, the accent and pronunciation and the style of speech of every person is different from the other. Similarly, although the semen and the formula of your physical structure is the same, yet your colors are so different that, nations apart, even the colors of the two sons of the same parents are not exactly the same. In this verse, attention has been drawn only to two aspects, but if one looks around he will notice an infinite variety everywhere in the world. One will find countless differences in the species of man, animal, plants and other things in spite of the basic uniformity in their different members. So much so that no member of the species is exactly identical with the other. Even the two leaves of a tree are not exactly alike. This shows that the world is not a factory in which automatic machines might be working and turning out things in mass production bearing the stamp of their own separate species. But in this factory there is a master artist at work, who gives individual attention to everything and produces it on a new design with new embellishments and proportions and qualities, and everything thus produced is unique in its own way. His inventive genius is turning out a new model of everything every moment, and his creative power abhors repeating the same design the second time. Anyone who sees this wonderful phenomenon with open eyes can never be involved in the foolish misconception that the maker of the universe has gone to sleep after having made it go. This is, on the contrary, a clear proof of the fact that he is ever engaged in his creative activity, and is giving individual attention to each and everything in his creation. 33.